Louisiana has done something insane. They now have a Republican governor, and they have passed a law requiring public schools to display the 10 Commandments in all of the state's classrooms. Now, anybody who has an even rudimentary understanding of the Constitution might say, hey, doesn't that violate the Establishment Clause? Doesn't that violate the First Amendment that says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof? Doesn't it?
That's been litigated before?
Well, it will be. I mean, the ACLU media is like, we're suing. Of course they are. The law says that the commandments must be 11 by 14 inches or larger. So they have a minimum requirement for the size of the paper and be in a large, easily readable font. And so they want people to read it. They want the students to have the 10 Commandments on display in front of them. And it's also just like explicitly said by the bill's sponsors what they want to do in terms of furthering Christian nationalism. Let's pull up this quote by Representative Dodie Horton. She sponsored the bill here. Horton has previously defended the bill during a House debate last month that the 10 Commandments are the basis of all laws in Louisiana, she said, arguing that the legislation honors the country's religious origins. This is her quote. "I'm not concerned with an atheist. I'm not concerned with a Muslim," she said when asked about teachers who might not subscribe to the 10 Commandments. "I'm concerned with our children looking and seeing what God's law is." So that's pretty explicit. Then the governor, when the governor was signing this bill, talked about Moses. So the quote is, "If you want to respect the rule of law, you've got to start with the original lawgiver, which was Moses." Okay. And then CNN's Boris Sanchez has had one of the Louisiana state representatives on who is supportive of this, co-authored the 10 Commandments legislation in the state. Sanchez is like one of CNN's best hires in years. I'm not exactly, I mean, he is just really good in these settings in particular. So it's obviously unconstitutional, or at least it should be, with this Supreme Court.
Yeah. Who
knows? Lots of theocrats on the Supreme Court. But they're just like wasting Louisiana and the people's there's time, because they're just wrapping up like the state's infrastructure in these legal battles to defend a display of the 10 Commandments in every classroom. So anyway, Sanchez here is speaking with Louisiana State Representative Lauren Ventrella. She co-authored the 10 Commandments legislation, and he corners her with her own insanely flawed logic here.
So when you talk about the moral fiber of our country, you realize that this country is an amalgamation of cultures, right? And different faiths. And even within Christianity, people don't interpret those commandments the same way.
Well, what's important about this bill and what's important to remember about this country is that whether we like it or not, Moses is in the Supreme Court of the United States. The 10 Commandments are in the Supreme Court of the United States. Moses is on the law in Congress. This is part and ingrained in our nation. This is a historical document that's important in Louisiana, because in Louisiana, we believe in faith, family, and freedom. And that is why I voted in favor of this bill.
Sure, but you also recognize that the Constitution of this country, its founding document, doesn't include the word God or Jesus or Christianity, and that's for a reason, because the founding fathers founded this country as a secular one. You don't
Boris,
see that?
I bet you CNN pays you a lot of money. I bet you got a bunch of dollar bills.
What does this have to do with the network that I work for or what I'm getting paid? Don't make this about that. Answer the question. Why did the founding fathers not include God in the Constitution if they wanted this country to be the way that you see it?
Let me finish my statement.
Answer the question and don't make this about me.
In God we trust. Well, make it about me. I got a dollar bill in my wallet. In God we trust is written on that dollar. It is not forcing anybody to believe one viewpoint. It's merely posting a historical reference on the wall for students to read and interpret it if they choose.
But fundamentally, you understand that there's a separation between church and state, and that if you're a student at a school, say you're Muslim or Hindu or atheist, having that on the wall, doesn't that endorse a specific set of beliefs?
Absolutely not. It is a historical document. Again,
but there are historical documents. There are historical documents that actually this law authorizes to be displayed in classrooms, like the Mayflower Compact, the Declaration of Independence, and others. But this one is specifically religious, and there's a difference there. I mean, that seems pretty clear that there's a difference between a random historical document and one that endorses a very specific view of a very specific denomination within a religion.
I don't agree with you that this is a random historical document. This is
I didn't say it was random, but there are others. Go ahead.
This is a very valuable document. Look, this nation has gotten out of hand with crime, with the bad, negative things that are going on. Why is it so preposterous that we would want our students to have the option to have some good principles instilled in them? If they don't hear it at home,
good principles.
Look, I'm up for the optionality, but Quran, they have some lessons.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Like, there are many historic documents that we could put on display in every classroom and mandate it. Yeah, you want to put the Quran on there? Yeah, why not? Well, I mean, all historic documents have to be on display because they have some sort of educational value according to this logic. But why this one then? Why this one?
The Age of Reason by Thomas Paine. How about that one?
Yes, we could pick anything. I mean, I've checked the rule book. There are many documents in the history of this world that are considered historical.
You know what vibe I'm getting from this lady?
What?
Kanye will be looked at as someone that saved the Jews.
Yeah, right. I mean, it really is incredible to see her kind of fall apart here, and then he's cornered her on this, and she moves to crime. I guess the display of the Ten Commandments
historical document
will indoctrinate the children in the way that she likes to make them non-criminals, because you know who's non-criminals? It's non-Christians. Duh. The Muslims, the atheists, the godless pedophiles. Oh, wait, did I express my ideology too succinctly there for you? All right, keep going.
Have some good principles instilled in them. If they don't hear it at home, let them read it in the classroom.
If they don't hear it at home.
The Mayflower Compact, which is mentioned in the document as well. I don't understand why this is so preposterous and that litigation is being threatened. It doesn't scare us in the state of Louisiana. We say bring it on.
Because if someone has a home in which they choose to believe something different, which is welcome in this country, it's literally why people fled to come here to found this country to begin with, then they should be allowed to. And it's not really an option if you're requiring it to be put up in the wall of the classroom. What do you say to the parents of students or even teachers who don't share your religious views?
Don't look at it.
Look,
what would you say if your child had to go to a classroom in which the 5 pillars of Islam were required to be on the wall? How would you feel?
Again, this is not about the 5 pillars of Islam. This bill specifically states the 10 Commandments. It is a historical document.
I'm presenting you with a hypothetical that would help you put yourself in the shoes of someone you may not understand and their point of view. How would you feel if you walked into a classroom and something you didn't believe in was required to be on the wall? You can answer that question.
I appreciate you, Chris. I cannot sit here and gather and fathom what you could give me 1,000 hypotheticals. But again, this specific bill applies to this specific text. The Quran or Islam, that is a very broad statement. We're specifically talking about a limited text on, mind you, a piece of paper that's not much bigger than a legal sheet of paper. Some kids might even need a magnifying glass to read all of this. This is not so preposterous that we're somehow sanctioning and forcing religion down people's throat. I've heard the comments, and it's just ridiculous.
I mean, a requirement is a requirement, right? Your law mandates a specific version of the commandments be posted. Here is one of them. I want to share it with our viewers. It says, quote, "Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his cattle, nor anything that is thy neighbor's." I'm wondering why this specific version of the commandments was selected.
So the reason why for that is because it is the most historical reference. It is one of the original translations into the English language, and to preserve the actual history of the document, the drafters of the legislation felt that it was very important to maintain that historical context and that language that portrays it in the best historical light possible.
I'm in no way diminishing anyone's beliefs. I don't think that my personal beliefs are important to this story, but I do have to point out and ask you about the fact that religious scholars don't even agree who wrote the Ten Commandments, where or when they were written. Does that not give you pause in any way that this comes from a religious document and not from something that's based in secular agreement or in a doctrine that a group of people have come to accept, something like the Constitution?
Look, religious scholars may not agree, but I'm going to tell you right now, Louisiana in both houses agreed, and we passed this legislation. Look, Louisiana is not California or New York. It may make people uncomfortable in other states, but in this legislature this year, it was a resounding acceptance of this legislation, and that's what's most important.
What should a teacher tell
all right. I keep waiting for him to let up on it. This is why we like Boris Sanchez in this house. He did not move on to anything else. He just kept going at her. Like, first of all, when she brought up that money example, "In God We Trust" was not on our currency at the founding of this country. I believe it was added in the late 1800s to mid 1800s, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, even in
One Nation Under God was Eisenhower. That's
right. Eisenhower was when we added One Nation Under God to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Also, it's not specific about any God, so it's less of a problem than the Ten Commandments.
Like it.
I don't like it either, but it's simply less of a problem than the Ten Commandments. But again, if we're going to do the Ten Commandments, very simply, let everything else in, too.
Right. Well, and I love don't look at it. Well, then what the point?
Look at the Quran.
That was a bad Louisiana accent by me. But why then do they need to mandate it to put it in every classroom if
it's easily readable?
If there's a separate section of students that will have to avert their gaze because they don't agree with it, why are you placing the burden on them? And that's why there is the Establishment Clause. And I would love to hear if she makes that argument about a pride flag. Just don't look at it. Don't look at it.
I'm talking simply about historical document. I don't know why you're bringing in all this other stuff. I mean, that woman represented just a foot soldier. And when she is gone, the system of sort of white evangelical fascism that has put her in her place will put someone else in the place. And that's why it's not her job to know what religious scholars think about any of this stuff. Her job is to repeat some talking points and do the votes that she's told to make.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. I really also appreciated that Bayou Bobert over here said that basically
Bayou Bobert, good job.
That she basically said Islam and the Quran, that's a really broad thing. I'm like, but if we were just to do a direct application, Christianity and the Ten Commandments is not a broad thing.
No, it's natural law. Why don't you understand?
Right. Somehow Islam and the Quran and those pillars if you put them in a vacuum, pillars from a religious text of a broad-based religion, one of them is like, whoa, we'd be really, really opening up a big can of worms there.
Yeah.
But we gotta have listen, the legislature agreed.
Yeah.
We have to preserve history.
Yeah.
Chad is right. That's a real Vergonia head there.
Totally. She will be she will ironically purchase our Vergonia flag T-shirt, but not understand because she doesn't seem to really be that quick.
No, that's an understatement.
Yeah.
Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.